this is Tristan here from Guitar by Ear. Today we're taking a look at this new Chesney song, Here and Now. There's already a few videos out there on how to play the chords, but today we're going to be looking at how to play the guitar solo from this song. So you just heard me playing it there in the beginning. Today we're going to do something a little different though. I'm actually going to teach it to you by ear. Now, if you aren't interested in this process, you just want to learn the solo, learn the notes as quickly as you can, I'm going to put a link in the description so you can skip to later on in the video where I just show you how to play the whole thing. The reason I like to do it by ear though is for a couple reasons. One reason is I find that when you find each note using your ears, you actually memorize the solo faster. So even though it takes a little longer to find the notes initially, you have the whole solo put together a little more easily. I also find that when we do this, it's one of the best ways to train our ears so that eventually, you won't even need my help. You can figure these solos out right off the recording. We're gonna start off with that C sharp minor pentatonic box, which is in the 9th position. So that means starting with your first finger on the 9th fret, this is the one that, if we're gonna use our pinky for it, we're gonna go 1, 4, then 1, and then 3, and then 1 on the next string, and then 3, and then 1 on the next string, and then 3, and 1 on the next string, and then 4, 1 on the next string, and then 4 again. We are going to be using one that starts on E on the 5th string on the 7th fret. And we're going to start with our ring finger on this note, on E, on Do. And then this scale starts on the ring finger on Do. Then it goes to that first finger on the 4th string over to the left. Then it's going to go to the ring finger on the 4th string on the 7th fret. And then it's going to slide 2 frets to the right with that ring finger to the 9th fret. So that sounds like this. And then we just have one more note in the pentatonic scale because it's a 5-note scale, pentatonic. The 5th note is going to be... So that's the first finger on the 3rd string on the 7th fret. That 5-note pattern is going to repeat over and over and over again in every octave of this type of a scale. That's the point of the diagonal scales partially, is that every octave has the exact same fingering, which is really convenient for transposing a lick from one octave to another octave. So if I do something like this, then I can go, and it's basically the same type of shape. So that diagonal pentatonic scale, one more time, it starts on the ring finger and it goes like this. So you can see I did another octave of it after that initial octave, where I started with my ring finger on the 9th fret of the 3rd string, and then I shifted 1 fret to the right when I go to the 2nd string. That's to make up for that 2nd string being tuned a little lower than it should be if it followed the same formula of the rest of the strings, of being tuned in a 4th. So instead, I shift 1 fret to the right when I go to the 1st finger, and I land on the 8th fret with my 1st finger. Then I go to my ring finger on the 10th fret. Then I slide 2 frets to the right again. And then I go to my 1st finger on the 1st string, 10th fret. And then I end with my ring finger up on Do again, up on E up here. So that fingering, 3, 1, 3, 3, 1. And then it starts over 3, 1, 3, 3, 1. 3, 1, 3, 3, 1. Over and over and over again. 3, 1, 3, 3, 1. It also alternates between having 2 notes on a string and then 3 notes on the next string. 2 notes, 3 notes, 2 notes, 3 notes, over and over again. And then the last scale shape we're going to use is an E major diagonal pentatonic. So this would start, instead of starting with our ring finger on that 5th string E that's on the 7th fret, we would put our 1st finger on that 5th string E, and the major diagonal shape is going to go like this. It's going to go 1, 3, 3 on the 5th string, sounds like this. And then on the next string, we're just going to go 1, 3. And that is the whole pattern. That's the 5-note pattern. Do, re, mi, so, la. And then it starts over again on Do. So with the major one, Do is always going to be on the 1st finger. And there's always going to be 3 notes on the string that has your root on it, that has Do on it. Do, re, mi. And then the next string is always only gonna have 2 notes on it. And so, la, so, right? So we're gonna have 1, 3, 3, and then 1, 3. And then it starts over on the 3rd string with the 1st finger on the 9th fret. 1, 3, 3. Now this time we have to shift up an extra fret when we go to the 2nd string. Shift to the 12th fret, 1, 3. And then we would have 1, 3, 3 on the 1st string. That has a nice flow to it. So you can even take it all the way down to the bottom of the guitar, and you can keep taking it higher as well if you keep following that formula, putting your 1st finger on Do, so in that case on E, if we're in the key of E major. And we are going to use a little bit of that E minor pentatonic box near the end of the solo, which is the same shape as the C sharp minor we went over earlier, but in the 12th position. So let's get started. So here's how I'm going to do the by ear portion of this video. I'm going to play the 1st note of the solo, and then I'm gonna ask you to find that note on your guitar. Make sure your guitar is tuned up already. There's a lot of free tuner apps out there, or you could get a clip-on tuner if you have one around. All right, so let's take a look at the 1st phrase. It sounds like this. All right, so we're gonna be using that C sharp minor pentatonic box, and you will find the 1st note on your 4th string with your 1st finger. So there it is. All right, so that can be found on the 9th fret, 1st finger. Here's the next note. Sounds pretty close to that 1st note, right? And it is on the same string, and it's with the ring finger. All right, so that's on the 11th fret. Next note is this. Tell, does that sound higher or lower than the previous note? Sounds higher, right? So that means it must be on the next string if we're gonna stay within that pentatonic shape. Give you a second to find that. All right, so that was on the 9th fret, and that means we're gonna use the index finger with it. So far we have these 3 notes. And I am doing a hammer-on for that 2nd note. So I'm picking the 1st note, hammering on the ring finger, and then doing a down pick again on the 3rd string. So 2 down picks with a hammer on in between. All right, next note is going to be, so what we're gonna do for that next note is we're gonna grab the note that sounds like this. So we're just coming from this note, so those 2 sound quite close together, and this is also on our 3rd string. So that's gonna be our 11th fret on the 3rd string. We're gonna take this note and we're gonna bend it up a whole step, or 2 frets. So we're gonna bend it up till it sounds the same as the note that's 2 frets to the right of it. So we're gonna take, so the next note is going to be this. And that's very close to the note we were just playing before. So it's also on our 3rd string. That's gonna be our ring finger. But we're gonna take this note and we're not just gonna play it normal. We're gonna bend it up a whole step first, which means bending it till it sounds the same as the note 2 frets to the right of it. So instead of taking this ring finger on the 11th fret and just playing it, we're gonna bend it till it sounds like this one. So I'm gonna hold this note down, I'm gonna hold that in my ear, and I'm gonna bend this up. I don't wanna overshoot or undershoot. I just wanna get it. That's a little trick I do sometimes to test my bends, is I find that note somewhere on the next string, like on the 2nd string, there's the same note, and I should be able to get it in tune with that so that it lines up with it. When 2 notes are in tune with each other, that shaking will stop. So you hear this. There is some kind of shaking, almost like some turbulence, and then it slows down and steadies out once they're in tune with one another. So we're taking that note we have. Now what we're gonna do, we're gonna unbend that note without picking again. We're just gonna unbend it right back to regular. And then we're gonna go to our 1st finger on the same string, on the 3rd string. All right? Next note is gonna be this. Sounds kind of familiar, right? Doesn't sound way higher or lower than anything we've been doing already. And you might have guessed it. That's actually the same note we were just playing with the ring finger, except not bending it this time. All right, so we have... And now we're gonna go to this note. And that's pretty close to this one, right? Yep, so that's also on the 3rd string, and that's with the 1st finger on the 9th fret. So we have... And that's gonna be a pull-off. Actually, we're gonna do a pull-off from the 3rd finger to the 1st finger there. And now we're going to go to this note. Da, do. It sounds lower, right? We can't go any lower on that 3rd string if we're gonna stay in this pentatonic box. We must be going to the 4th string. Yep, so that's gonna be your ring finger on the 11th fret of the 4th string. There it is, sorry. So here's what we have so far. We have... All right. First time we do that 3rd string note with the bend, then we do it without the bend and with the pull-off. And then we're gonna go back to this note. Sounds very resolved, and that's because it's do. And that is on our 3rd string, and it's with the 1st finger. So we have... So there is the first phrase of this solo, the opening phrase. Once again, if this is going a little too slow for you, jump ahead. If it's going a little too fast, feel free to rewind. And even just learn, for a beginner, even just learning that much for one day is great. You could come back and finish this another time. It's a great little lick that you could reuse in many different circumstances. Next, we're going to switch to using a different shape. We're going to switch to using notes out of this shape. That's that minor diagonal shape, E minor, that we talked about. So we just did. Now what we're going to do is we're going to find this note on our 2nd string. All right, so pause if you need to take some extra time to find it. But that note is going to be on your 8th fret, and we're going to put our 1st finger on that. That comes right out of that. All right, and what we're gonna do with that is then we're gonna go to this note. Once again, that sounds like do, and that's because it's the same do that we resolved to before, but this time we're gonna use our middle finger to play that note. So we have on the 2nd string, and then we have on the 3rd string. So now we're gonna have this note. Sounds higher, right? That's going back up to that 2nd string. I say up because the sound is going up, even though the 2nd string is lower to the floor. All right, that's gonna be on the 10th fret with the ring finger. Then we're gonna go back to the 1st finger. So we're making like a little circle, or a little triangle, however you wanna think of it. Then we're going to go back to our do again. Remember, that's on our 3rd string on the 9th fret. All right, so far we've... All right, we should quickly talk about the picking for that last part there. So for the first part, we were just doing down picks and hammer-ons. Down pick, hammer-on, down pick, and then pick again down with a bend. Then unbend with no pick, and then pick, and then we pick, and then do a pull off, and then we pick those last 2 notes. For this next part, we are going to do a little bit of alternate. For this next part, we are going to do a little bit of alternate picking. So we're going to go, that's going to be down, up, down, up, down, down. For this next part, we are going to do a little bit of... And for that second part of the... And for that newest phrase that we just learned, we are going to do a little bit of alternate picking. So we're going to be doing down, up, down, up, down, up. Down, up, down, up, down, up. All right. First part was mostly just down picks and some hammer-ons and some pull-offs. This part has the alternate picking. So the first part was mostly down picks with some hammer-ons and pull-offs, and this part has alternate picking in it. All right, let's look at the next phrase. The next phrase is going to be using the E minor diagonal pentatonic as well. So that's the same one we were using for this part, but it's going to be a lower part of that same scale. So we're going to start with this note, and that's going to be on your 3rd string. All right, pause if you need more time to find it. And that is going to be on your 7th fret. And we're going to put the 1st finger on that. Now what we're going to do is we're going to find this note. You can tell that is lower, and we're going to find that on the 4th string. Pause if you need to, and that is on the 9th fret. We're going to put the ring finger on that. Now what we're going to do is the moment we play this note with our ring finger, we're going to slide it 2 frets to the left, or down a whole step. And that is going to give us the next note as kind of a slur. So it's going to be nice and smooth. So we are going to hear this note as its own note. We're not just going to immediately slide, but just a split second later, after we let the listener actually hear this note, then we're going to slide into that next note. And that rhythm there, it's ba da da da. That's a triplet. So it's rest and triplet, triplet, 1 and triplet, 1 and triplet. Right? After that, so we have pick, pick, slide, pick with the 1st finger on the 5th fret of the 4th string, and that's part of that minor shape once again. Now what we're going to do is we're going to go back to this note, also on the 4th string. Pause if you need to find it, but that is on the 7th fret. So we have. Now I'm going to do an up pick, and I'm going to go back to this note. That is on the 5th fret of the 4th string. And now I'm going to go to this note. Sounds very final, very resolved, sounds like do, like our home bass, and that's because it is. That is an E on the 5th string, and that is on the 7th fret with the ring finger. All right, that's where that minor pentatonic scale, the diagonal one, that's where it starts. All right, so next we're going to be using notes from the E major diagonal pentatonic, the one that sounds like this. 1 3 3 1 3 1 3 3 1 3. We are going to finger it a little differently this time though, just because of the circumstances here. We're going to actually end up using our middle finger at one point instead of the ring finger. I find that that sets up this line a little bit easier when we start going towards the 2nd string. So we're going to start with this note. And that should sound familiar to you from the very, very beginning of the solo. This is kind of going back to this similar idea. So that is on the 9th fret with the 1st finger. And then we are going to go to this note. It's very close together, sounds very familiar right from the beginning of the solo. That is on the 11th fret of the 4th string with the ring finger, just like how we started the solo. Then we're going to go to this note. And you might have guessed, it's also just like the beginning of the solo. We're going to the 3rd string on the 9th fret with the 1st finger. Now this is where we would normally use the ring finger if we wanted to continue up the scale. Instead, I'm going to use my middle finger here. The frets are close together in this part of the guitar. It's not a big stretch. So we're going to go to, I'm going to show you this part. We're going to move to the middle finger next. And we're going to slide 2 frets to the right with it. I'm doing hammer on the 4th string. I'm picking this note. I'm picking the 3rd string note. I'm picking the middle finger also. But then I'm doing a slide. So I like to use tas and yas when I'm explaining picking and non-picking. So the sound of a ta sounds like a pick attack, ta ta ta, and the sound of a ya, ya ya ya, is more of a soft consonant, and that represents like a hammer-on or a pull-off or a slide. So we're going ta 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 ya. but we're going to use the middle finger instead of the ring finger. Ta, 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 ya. All right? After that, we are going to keep moving up this diagonal scale. So we're going to go to this note on the 2nd string, and that is on the 12th fret with the index finger. And then we're going to go right back to that middle finger on the 3rd string. And then right back to that 2nd string again. Just using down picks for now. Well, actually, you could do a down, up, down on that part if you want to. Down on the 2nd string, up on the 3rd string, and then down on the 2nd string again. Then we're going to finish going up that major pentatonic, doing a hammer-on the 2nd string, and then going to the 1st finger on the 1st string. I actually think they might pick this note with an up pick, but pretty quietly. But I do hear a little bit of a pick attack there. Personally, I like doing it just as a hammer-on there. I think it sounds a little smoother. Versus, but it's up to you. You can try it either way, with an up pick there or with just a hammer-on there. All right, now we are going to get into a different shape. Now we're going to be into the E minor pentatonic box. So that's the same box we used for C sharp minor, which is like E major pentatonic, but now we're 3 frets higher, making it E minor pentatonic. So those are our notes from our scale we're gonna use for this part. And what we're gonna do is we just made it up to this top note here. And now what we're going to do is we're going to play this note on the 2nd string. All right, so that is on our 15th fret there on the dot. And we're going to use either 2 fingers or 3 fingers. You can do what's more comfortable for you. But we're going to bend this note. And this is a very fun trick. So instead of having a target note for where we're trying to bend this note to, which is what we normally do, we're actually just going to bend this note upwards until just before it hits the target. So the target is that note. But right when it's about to meet up with that note, we're actually going to stop playing the 2nd string. We're not going to let go of it altogether because that would give us like a pull-off noise, like the sound of the open string. We're going to keep touching the 2nd string, but we're going to stop pressing in on it. So that will just silence the 2nd string. And we're going to play our 1st finger on the double dot there. Very cool sound. If you find you're getting some extra string noise from that 2nd string, be careful about letting go all the way with the ring and middle finger, or you can let go of it all the way if you let the top of your 1st finger kind of brush up against the 2nd string. If you're kind of using the pad of your 1st finger, the flat part, to play the 1st string instead of the tip like we normally would, so that you can use the tip to brush up against and mute the 2nd string. So there's little tricks like that you can do to try to kill some of those extra noises in there. You can also use this hand on top of some of the bass strings to help keep those bends a little bit cleaner. So after that we have the... All right, now we're gonna go to the 1st string on this note. And that is on your 15th fret. And we're gonna use probably the pinky for that. That's gonna be helpful for a lot of you because we're about to bend this note. So using all 4 fingers together, 1 finger on each fret, is gonna be helpful. We could also do it with just 3 fingers. You could use the ring finger and just use the middle finger and 1st finger to help support it. Either way, we're gonna do a whole step bend. That's 2 frets to the right. So we're gonna make this note, this G on the 15th fret, sound like this A on the 17th fret. Once again, my thumb's up on top a little bit to help give me something to press against when I'm bending, rotating the wrist. And then what we're gonna go is we're gonna go back to the same note without bending it, quite as much at least. We're gonna do closer to a half step bend this time, maybe not even, just putting a little bit of an upwards movement on this note afterwards. So. And then we're gonna go back to the 1st finger there on the 12th fret. And then we're going to have this note on the 2nd string. You might notice that's not part of our E minor pentatonic sound. That actually comes from that major pentatonic that we were using earlier. And that is with the ring finger on the 14th fret. So we're gonna end with 2 do's. So do is our E way up here on the 1st string on the 12th fret. So we have. Now there are some other guitar parts going on during this solo aside from just rhythm. There are some other lead licks. For example, after that little, we hear. So there are some little things going on in the background. I'm choosing just to stick with what I hear as the lead solo that's happening. The other things are kind of just filler in the background. So if you were gonna play this solo, live with your band or something, you would probably just stick with these notes here, unless you have enough guitar players in the band to have someone else playing some of those background parts. We could grab this at the very end if we want to. That's just back in our 7th position with our ring finger on the 9th fret, doing a little bend on it, and then going to the 1st finger on the 7th fret. So we have. You could choose to jump to that, but then you can't hold that final note, the high E over here as long. So it's kind of a trade-off if you want to include that or not. All right, this part is for those of you who've skipped ahead because you're a little more advanced, or for those of you who already worked through the first part of the video. Put some distortion on my guitar. I'm just gonna play through it phrase by phrase. I'm not gonna break it down in the same way. And here we go. First phrase is. One more time. Next we have. One more time, that is. And then we have. One more time. Then we have. Once again. That time I used my ring finger. Normally I use the middle finger here. Middle. Then we have. Once again. Or you could use the ring finger. And then we have. Once again, that is. And then there's a second guitar that plays that at the end. But you could choose to throw that in at the end of your solo instead of hanging on that high E. All the way through now. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed today's video, please hit subscribe. It really helps me out. If you're interested in more of my content, I'm going to be posting more and more on this channel. You can also check out my website, tristanjantz.com. You can reach out to me there if you're interested in online lessons with me, one-on-one. I'm also going to be posting some online courses soon on a new website that I'm working on, learnguitarbyear.com, and I'll let you all know when that's up and running. I'm going to be posting a lot more content coming up soon, so be on the lookout. Thanks again.